So, mentioned two other divination methods in that last run. I mentioned Norse runes. Norse runes, or the Futhark language, is a very neat system. Whereas symbolism is used in, say, a tarot deck, you have a body of energy or structure within an oracle card. Within a rune, you have a letter that represents parts of the natural world, perceived and understood, and contains the power of that natural world in that word. Ooh, always a tongue twister. It personifies what the word comes from. It personifies the power of the letter and how it adds to every other letter in the language. Now, the story goes that Odin was out finding the truth of all things, and so he hung himself upside down on, I believe, an elder tree, cast the runes, the language of his people, in front of his eyes, and just sat there, a little more stayed hung up there, like the hanged man, staring at both the runes and the words and the letters, but also at every little piece of the reality around him. And through this act and through this conduct, he began to realize that the letters are quite literally in the trees. And through this understanding, he realized that the world was spelling energy around him. He could then connect with that energy by understanding and bring that power back through the runes to inscribe that energy on objects of need, or to bring about changes in the world or in the environment for himself, or to empower himself to be a better form of what he wanted to present. This is his ascension story, ultimately. Similar to Jesus Christ out with the desert, or devil in the desert specifically, or Buddha finding his way out from the castle walls. To find their understanding of things. All of the stories lead to a person that goes through this moment of stuck struggle with reality of the world as they know it. For him, it was literally, Odin, it was literally just the language of the world, being able to speak as the world was speaking to him. When this concept is achieved, it allows you to use the runes as not just a way of interpreting what may be coming up. Yes, when you understand the mood of things, you can understand what events might be attached to that mood. And I find that better represented in the I Ching. We'll get into that one next. Divination with the runes could also be turned to more empowerment with the runes. And I do truly believe that is the original intention behind rune work, to empower the person calling for the runes with that energy that they need. If done randomly, it generates interesting results. If done with key focus and education, I find it works really quite well, but sometimes more than people would expect. We have seen a few interesting rune casters show up in our world in the last few years that have used the energy for empowerment of themselves, but not necessarily speaking with the world, more so speaking with a group. And this is absolutely feasible, according to legend, with these runes, to empower oneself to be that greater form and greater focus. This is why sometimes certain words or runes would be cast on certain items, and one of the best protection spells that I've ever used has come from Norse runes. So with this, to wrap your mind around it, you have to step out of the sense that an object means one particular thing, and an object is both the event and the energy that created the event and the circumstances that will release it. It requires stepping out and taking objects and looking around it from multiple angles. And I read a book once that defined this as being an opposable mind. My favorite is the image of the shadow, where it's a square shadow on the wall, but it's a cone when you look at it from another angle. And just being able to understand that things change shape based upon how we move around it enables a person to approach the runes not as, again, absolutes, but more as conveyings of power and moods and feelings, emotions, and the energy that are attached to them. Yeah, I definitely work with runes. That's a tricky one. If you have questions, hit me direct.